Hi, I'm Esther, and in this video I'm going to take you through step by step how to sew up the Megan Nielsen Acacia underwear pattern. You can actually access this pattern completely free of charge if you sign up to the Megan Nielsen newsletter, so I will link that below. And as a bonus, there's a mini Acacia pattern, so if you have any little ones in your life, you can sew up some underwear for them as well. This is a great beginner-friendly pattern with a few different options for how to finish the openings with elastic or fabric bands, and I'll talk you through all of those options in this video. Let's get started.
Before we start cutting, use the stretch ruler supplied with the pattern information to check that our fabric is suitable. It should also have really good recovery, which means it will return back to its original shape after being stretched. Otherwise, you'll end up with saggy, stretched out underwear. Once you've checked that, you can start to cut out your fabric pieces as well as whichever elastic variation you've chosen. Note that the fabric band option is currently only included in the mini Acacia pattern, but it's a really simple variation and I'll talk you through that quickly now. To use fabric bands instead of elastic, you simply cut strips of fabric 5 centimeters wide and then cut the length according to the elastic measurements supplied in the sizing chart. The long edges of the bands should be running in the direction of the greatest stretch because we really need these bands to be nice and stretchy. Now with all our pieces cut out, we can start sewing. Place one gusset right sides together on the front piece and we're going to sew 6mm or 1/4 inch from that crotch seam. We are working with a stretchy fabric, so you have to use a stretch stitch. You can use an overlocker or serger or the zigzag stitch. Open it up flat and then we can place the back piece right sides together on top of the other end of the gusset. We're going to sew that side now, 6mm from that raw edge. Now it should look like this, and we're going to roll the front and the back towards the middle and pin them so that they're out of the way. I forgot to pin mine. As long as they're out of the way, we can pop the second gusset piece on top, so the right side should be facing down, and now we can sew along those 2 crotch seams again, so it should look like this once it's sewn. Now we can flip the gusset out the right way so that the front and back pieces come out like this, and we'll press all of those seams down nice and flat. Now we can pop the front and back right sides together, line up the side seams and sew those down. 6mm from the edges. Once we've pressed the side seams towards the back, we can attach the elastic. The first option is to use regular elastic that's 6mm wide. You should have 1 elastic for the waist and 2 for the leg openings, and you can apply the following technique to attach all 3. So overlap the ends of the elastic by 6mm and sew them together to create a loop. Then you divide the loop into quarters and mark them with pins, and you do the same for the waist and the leg openings. Now we're going to sew the elastic to the wrong side of the fabric, lining up the pin markings so that the elastic is distributed evenly around each opening. Use a zigzag stitch and aim to sew through the middle of the elastic. You'll need to stretch the elastic as you're sewing to align with the fabric. Once you've sewn all the way around, it should look like this, and you can fold the elastic over so that it's hidden. Now we can sew around again, also using the zigzag stitch, but this time you're sewing closer to the raw edge of the fabric. So once it's finished, the elastic will be stitched down and you'll only be able to see 1 line of stitching on the outside of the underwear. The next method is to attach lingerie elastic or picot elastic. We're going to follow the same technique to join our pieces of elastic to create loops and divide the loops into quarters, and do the same for each opening so that we can line up the pins and distribute the elastic evenly. The big difference this time though is that we need to lay the lingerie elastic on the right side of the fabric. The decorative or scalloped edge of the elastic should be pointing down into the garment so that the straight edge of the elastic is lining up with the straight edge of the underwear like this. Then use a zigzag stitch again, and just be aware of your stitching placement because it will affect the finished look. This is because once we've sewn that 1 line of stitching, we'll flip the elastic up the right way and sew a second line of stitching to hold the elastic in place on the inside of the garment. For example, where I've sewn allows me to fold the elastic down and fully expose those cute little circle details that are in my elastic. If I had sewn closer to or even over those circles the first time around, then once I've folded it and done a top stitch down, I wouldn't be able to see those full circles. Hopefully that makes sense, because this obviously depends on the details of your elastic, which varies greatly, so it might be worth doing a little trial to see if you like the finished look before you commit. Okay, another option is to use fold over elastic, which has this line running through the center, which allows you to more easily fold it in half. Just be aware that there is a right side and a wrong side of this elastic. The softer plush side is the right side, and that will feel nicer against the body. First, join the ends of the elastic, but rather than overlapping it like we did with the previous methods, we should put the right sides together and sew it down 6mm so that the raw ends of the elastic can now be hidden inside once we attach it. Use the same method as before to divide the elastic into quarters as well as the openings to make sure that the elastic is distributed evenly throughout, and then we can simply fold it over the raw edge of each opening, encasing the raw edge inside the elastic, and then we sew it down with a zigzag stitch. You have to stretch the elastic a bit as you sew, and when you're done it should look like this. The final method is to use fabric bands. Match up the short edges of each band, right sides together, and sew them 6mm from the edge. Press the seam, then fold the bands in half long ways like this. Divide the bands into quarters as well as the openings like we did previously, and match them up with the right sides together. The raw edges should all be on the same side so that we can now serge or zigzag them together. Once they're sewn, they should look like this, and we can give them a press so that the seams lie nice and flat, and they're all done.
So there we go. I hope that you enjoyed this video and that it was helpful for you. If you found yourself stuck at any of the steps, do refer to the information that came with your pattern. There are great in-depth instructions there, as well as an online blog post that will be listed below. And of course, you can try to watch the video again to follow along. This is a very satisfying make, so I ended up churning out a whole bunch of these. I hope that you enjoy making these too. And don't forget to tag Megan Nielsen in all of your makes. We love seeing how they turn out. Use the hashtag #MNAcacia so that we can find all of your specific Acacia makes on Instagram and Facebook, and we will see you in another video soon. Bye!